Welcome to today's episode of Decisions Now. I'm your host, Erin Pearson, along with our CTO, Rigvinath Chevala, who is our co-host. And today we're extra excited. We have Zach Richard with us, who is the Global Director of Data Science at McDonald's, and they are a client working with us within data analytics as well. Zach, welcome to today's podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Zach. It's an honor to have you on the podcast.
No problem.
One of the things that I think is really, first off, for anyone who doesn't know that's listening to this, McDonald's is actually doing some really cool things, especially with the drive-in technology, or if you're actually going and ordering different pieces. I think there's so much going on, and what's extra cool and so massive for McDonald's is you guys are such a big company, and the customer experience is so essential to getting clientele, that having that seamless experience working for everybody and them not even necessarily realizing how much is going into it is quite incredible. And so you are heading up the team that is doing a lot of that work as well, which we're excited to learn a little bit more about today also. But just to get us started with that, can you, Zach, tell us a little bit about how you guys are using data to dynamically create marketing campaigns at McDonald's?
Sure. Yeah. So just to double down on kind of your comment, McDonald's has really pushed over the last couple of years to bring data and analytics together with marketing and operations and restaurant development into a new customer experience organization, which my team is part of. So everything that we do is geared towards improving the customer experience, but also the crew experience as well. So making sure that people who are in the restaurants, from customer to crew, are all having a great kind of what we call feel good moments while they're there in the restaurant. So in terms of how we're bringing data together to personalize kind of the marketing experience, we've done a lot of data collection and aggregation over the last few years, developed a system internally at the global level that we've released over a couple of markets, specifically under the leadership of a colleague of mine, Patrick Baginski, who works together with me in the data science space to push out really advanced customer segmentation models, and through our global mobile application, as well as a separate application that we use in some smaller markets, really turned an eye towards personalization and segmentation. That's only kind of increased in the last couple of years, I would say. COVID kind of forced us to accelerate some things in that area, where we were probably at the lower end in terms of our mobile adoption and the use of our application as a percentage of our business. Mm-hmm. COVID really pushed that forward and accelerated that, gave us a lot of I wouldn't say we were lacking for data before, but definitely as a percentage of the population that uses or eats at our restaurants, saw a lot of movement into the digital space. The release of our loyalty program in the last year or so as well has really pushed that in terms of being able to track even more, user behaviors, preferences, what are people coming back for? What are people spending their points on? What's the behavior with redeeming points, right? Do people like to take advantage right away and get themselves an ice cream cone, or do they like to hold out for that double quarter pounder? It kind of gives us a lot of interesting new data to point towards segmentation and personalization, which has been really exciting.
That's awesome. I think, especially, I come from the marketing background side of this as well. So when you talk a lot about the segmentation and personalization, certainly that's something that anybody in marketing picks up on quite a bit. Do you have anecdotes or any information on how you guys have done the segmentation across the board, or how that's actually impacted the types of campaigns that running and the types of impact that you're getting off of your campaigns?
Yeah, so I think I lost you there for a second, but try to answer the question, I can't share any specific anecdotes necessarily, but we are doing a lot of interesting things with kind of pushing people towards, um, recent promotions that we know they're going to enjoy, whether it's the McRib or the Shamrock Shake, matching those behaviors with kind of their historical purchases. Letting people know when we have new launch items like the crispy chicken sandwich, that that's something they'll probably be interested in, again based on their historical behavior and purchases. So we try to make sure we're not giving people kind of those superfluous notifications, right? If you've never had a McDonald's ice cream cone in your life, or maybe you're lactose intolerant or whatever, not that we would know that, but we're not going to send you a notification about free ice cream day or something at the restaurant, right? So without going too much into depth on kind of the specifics of what we're sending certain people, those are some of the things we try to do for sure.
And of course, you have millions of customers. So when you go through, even before segmentation, right, you have to go through some sort of a data exploration step. Um, how hard or easy have you has your team found it to be? Like, any specific techniques that?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I mean, so McDonald's, I think, in the sense of data and analytics, at least, or digital transformation, is probably still considered like a legacy company, right? We've been around for a while. Our presence has largely been physical, historically, and we can't really operate our business without having a physical location, at least in this point, at this point in time, right? So we do have challenges with data, despite the volume that you kind of alluded to there. We have really good transactional data, right? So we're really good at knowing when we've made money and when we've made a sale.
Mm.
All of that is extremely reliable. But within that, we do have some kind of challenges just because of the scale, right? Aggregating data from 100+ markets globally, all of whom are empowered a little bit because of the decentralized nature of McDonald's and the franchisee model, to do their own thing, to be successful in running and operating their own individual businesses. Aggregating all of that disparate data globally, that McDonald's corporate in one way or another may or may not own, has been challenging. So when we get beyond, the raw kind of sales data and into specifics like level of customizations, which have only increased over time, as people want to customize and personalize their individual sandwich choices or menu choices. And kind of where those fit in, timings, right? Things like speed of service are very important to the customer experience at McDonald's. We want to make sure people are getting their food quickly and accurately, but different markets around the globe may track those different metrics irregularly relative to each other. So we have that data. It's just a matter of kind of cleaning it and getting it all in the same format. We have a really great and robust centralized IT organization that specializes in kind of all of that data engineering and data management, and they put in a lot of effort to normalize that.
Sure.
Often with input from the data science team in terms of rules and kind of what we're looking for. And they provide a lot of support there. So that's, in terms of data exploration, something you think might be simple, like, hey, tell me, how many people globally customized their Big Mac to not include pickles or something, may actually take a few days just to get through all the different nuances in the way it's cleaned in different markets, assuming you're doing something like that for the first time. If we have a repeatable type of analysis that we do, usually the automation gets engineered into the process at some point.
So I can tell you, I'd be one of those people who would remove the pickles from my order.
I'm a no pickles kind of guy myself on my hamburgers.
I'm pickles on the side kind of guy.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, see, lots of preferences. So you guys are actually doing quite a bit with computer vision and speech analytics as well, within the ordering system that you have and how you're actually doing the layouts of different stores. So could you talk a little bit about how that's actually impacting when people are ordering? I think we were talking a little bit about like the customer experience with speech analytics. If people are ordering like chocolate shakes, for example,
Mhm.
and then if it's out of stock, you guys like can dynamically change the menus and things like that.
Sure, yeah. So we focus on the speech aspect of it first. So we've partnered with IBM to develop an artificial intelligence that will take your drive-through order for you.
Hmm.
The technology behind that is very interesting. Highly recommend kind of a deeper dive for anybody listening who's interested in kind of going into the background there. But from a kind of business activation standpoint, what we've found as kind of a byproduct of what was originally an effort to make things faster and simpler in the drive-through provides us with a ton of new data about the customer experience that we've never had before. So we do not currently record the interactions between crew and customer. And so the fact that we have these voice recordings and resulting transcripts of the interaction between the artificial intelligence and the customer unlocks a wealth of knowledge about that interaction, about what customers in our drive-through are asking for, and about some of the challenges they're facing, about some of the expectations they have from
Hmm.
McDonald's. So historically, just as an example, we obviously have a few limited time offers that only show up on our calendar once a year or once every couple of years. The McRib or the Shamrock Shake are good examples of those. We do a ton of surveys and research and information gathering to determine what the windows for marketing and that kind of thing for these products will be. Um, but what we have never had before, and what something like this data from this artificial intelligence in the drive-through provides to us is when our customers actually asking for that product. Is it before the marketing window? Is it during the marketing window but prior to launch? How often do people ask for a limited time offer after it's already left the menu? How much money are we leaving on the table in that respect? So we've never had kind of the actual direct customer feedback like that we have now. And then it's really interesting to merge up that a customer requests an item, it's not available. What are they getting as a substitute? Or are they getting anything? Does average check decline when a customer asks for something that is not available? Or do they replace it with a like valued item? Questions like that are questions that we could have never answered before, because it was a complete gap in terms of the type of data that we have. So yeah, that's been a really interesting byproduct of that technology solution for
No,
sure.
that's interesting. I mean, that I never thought of it that way, right? You never had that data before, and
Yeah,
with this tech, you're even like looking at the behavior of how a drive-through order goes through. Like they change their mind, they're talking to their
yeah,
family, there's a pause. So it's amazing that you guys have tried that out, and it's live now, and I
yeah.
should I
It's
should
and
try it
then
myself.
yeah. It's worth going to and checking out some of the handful of restaurants it's in, just to see how it performs and how the interaction goes.
Hmm.
I would say too that pretty soon here, if not already, we're going to start kind of testing. You talked about kind of, you can learn how people are interacting,
Hmm.
changing their mind, interacting with their families. The cool thing too is that we can live test how to make that experience for the customer that much more smooth, right? In terms of changing decisions, changing orders,
Right.
accounting for everybody in the vehicle.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting time.
It certainly is. So what about the computer vision aspect of it? Like, I think you guys are also changing the layout of how your stores actually look based on how people are moving throughout the store. Did I get that right?
So that's aspirationally that would be great, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. We're still in the early stages of our computer vision strategy as a company. I will say in the last 5 to 10 years, we've dramatically increased the number of ways you can both order from a McDonald's and have your order fulfilled. So it used to be pretty straightforward, kind of two-channel process. You could either go in the store, go to the front counter, order and pick up there, or you could go through the drive-thru. In the last few years, we've introduced delivery, curbside, through the mobile application. We have kiosks in the restaurants. We have table service in some restaurants. So the combination of order points and fulfillment points dramatically increased, which means that we have a lot of gaps in some of the traditional ways that we measure the customer experience, which was usually tied to the POS, which was then tied to the channel and fulfillment center that you're kind of both ordering and picking up your food. So the actually one of the kind of low-hanging fruit, if you will, applications of computer vision that we've identified in the restaurants is solving for those gaps in the customer experience, so that we actually know what the experience looks like from the time you place your order at the kiosk to the time someone delivers it at your table if you opt for table service, right? Whereas we would not know that before. So again, kind of similar to the voice agent solution, what we're finding early on in the early days of the application of these technologies is that it's actually filling a lot of the kind of data and measurement gaps that we had historically, which, again, aspirationally will lead to differences in the way we design restaurants and differences in the way we kind of measure our operating standards and things like that. But still early days on all that stuff.
I think that's so cool.
So I guess, maybe we could talk about how all of this was, I guess, achieved, right? I mean, sure, the end user impact, and as one of our clients, we're happy that we're part of that journey and contributing to your customer experience. But from the back end of things, like how like I believe you have a centralized DA team, which wasn't the case before. How did that, I guess, change management happen? Because I know a lot of our listeners are wondering the same question, right? How do I make such a big transformation happen?
Yeah.
Any
So
thoughts on
it's
that?
still a work in progress. I'm not gonna lie to you about that. It's a multi-year journey for sure. So about 3 years ago, McDonald's decided we're going to have a centralized data science function. So it would be inaccurate to say that McDonald's didn't have data science before. There were pockets of data science analytics expertise throughout the organization at different levels in different departments, based on need. But those folks were, for the most part, I would say, pretty siloed off from each other. And not a lot of communication between kind of practitioners, no community of practice or kind of knowledge sharing, or mechanism to continue to upskill talent within the organization, which led to a lot of kind of churn out, right? You'd have a data scientist on your team specifically for 1 or 2 years. They'd have kind of nowhere to go. And they'd leave the organization. So I think when we 3 years ago decided to, start this team, I think there was a distinct effort to, yes, we need kind of high-powered advanced analytics capabilities to work with both our internal business stakeholders and our external partners who are helping us develop these capabilities. But we also need kind of a community of practice, right? McDonald's is, again, by nature, a very decentralized organization by design. So the idea that we have a centralized data science or analytics function is not because we believe all data science and advanced analytics needs to come from that centralized function. It's because we need that centralized function to serve as kind of an anchor for the rest of the organization, who still have data scientists and analytics and data engineers, to come together, be kind of a sounding board for some of the things we want to do, either in technology, in the markets, or kind of questions we have, to manage our kind of portfolio of work in the area that we've already done. And then also, I think a big component of that is talent management and upskilling, right? Data science and analytics, extremely competitive. Continuing to be competitive, I would say, as you know, people aren't generating less data, and companies are not asking fewer questions about their customers. So I think there's going to be a continued need for that. So how do we manage talent in such a way? Again, that's not centralized. We're not the arbiters of who, you know, gets promoted and career advancement opportunities and stuff, but we definitely want to be able to help support the rest of the organization in terms of their aspirations to upskill their talent, to provide career pathways to data scientists, data engineers, that are both technical and business facing. So yeah, that was kind of some of the goals. I mean, from an execution standpoint, year one or so was all about building credibility, just taking on whatever projects we could get, and trying to do the best we could on those. Not all of them by any means were successes, right? We had plenty of failures, plenty of projects that we thought, oh, well, you know, this is what we've got. This is the question we're being asked. We're going to take that challenge on and make the best of it, see what we can do. And sometimes it did not always pan out. But in aggregate, I think it was the right approach. It was worth it because we had some big wins in the first 6-9 months of the team, for sure.
Okay.
One of the things, Zach, that you had said that I thought stood out quite a bit is upskilling people both on the like more the data science side, the technology side, and then also on the business side. I think a lot of times you see a bit of a clash of personalities when oftentimes these teams meet. Do you have any things that you've seen work really well for how these teams can work together and how they're actually growing and kind of merging together a bit more?
Yeah, so I think one of the things we benefited from was, at the time, I can't remember, maybe it was McKinsey, but they had just kind of started pushing the idea of the like analytics translator, which has become a little bit more common now. But the idea that you kind of had someone who was technical, who sat a little bit between the business and the pure data scientist folks, and kind of did that two-way translation, you know, explaining the business, what was possible, what we could do, what was actionable, and then explaining to the, you know, helping translate to the IT side, you know, this is the business problem. We don't need to always focus on making the most theoretically great, you know, artificial intelligence that we can. We just need to solve this problem for the business, and do it efficiently, right? It can't cost $1 billion or something to make it work. So we benefited just from that idea being out there in the market at the time. So we leaned really heavily on those definitions that were in place, to kind of identify how those interactions would take place. I think from there it was really just a kind of a balance, right? When we built the team out, and executed on our hiring strategy, we knew we couldn't hire just 50 PhD data scientists and stick them in a room somewhere and have them build awesome models all the time. We needed people who were interested and invested in the business challenges that we were trying to solve, and people whose aspirations, even though they had a technical background, maybe laid outside of you know, scripting and coding in the long term, so that we had some people who were interested in kind of moving into those translator roles over time.
That's interesting. And all of these, obviously, I'm guessing the translators and the data scientists work together to deliver.
Yeah, so all part of one team. Generally, the translators or project, you know, served in kind of a project or portfolio management capacity. We tried to stay away from having any of any of the folks with a data science background truly be, we weren't hiring project managers, I guess was the point. We wanted people who were going to show the art of the possible and be able to execute. And our focus wasn't too much on, making sure we were following agile best practices and generating scrum boards and logging into Jira daily and stuff like that. That might have been a mistake. We might not have put as much emphasis on project management early as we could have, because I think, by the time we got to the point where we were building and executing, cool new technologies or capabilities for McDonald's, I think we'd lost a little bit of the kind of fidelity with project management, and we had to go back and generate, retroactive paperwork and things to track everything. So maybe an opportunity to do something differently there, but overall, I think it worked pretty well.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, and maybe the right word to use is federated and not totally centralized in your case, which sounds like probably the right balance versus being completely siloed or completely being centralized. So that's a pretty good approach. Thanks for that.
So Zach, I know we're kind of coming close to time here. Though one of the things I'm curious about, we talked a bit in the beginning about, what you guys are currently doing with data analytics and how you have some aspirations, especially around computer vision. Are there other areas of data analytics that you guys are starting to look into that you're finding very interesting, or maybe ones that you're just, or maybe not even McDonald's, but the industry is just starting to scratch the surface on that you're particularly excited about?
Well, I'm always going to go back to the vision stuff because that's just my team, and I have a specifically vested interest in that. But I think we're doing because I think we're doing a lot of cool stuff. Again, this isn't necessarily my area, but I think we're exploring the right questions around customer lifetime value and things like that. Very traditional stuff, right? Isn't new, isn't going to wow anybody that, oh my God, we're releasing a new CLV, model or metric, right? But again, I point, the landscape has changed so dramatically over the last few years. Brand loyalty behaviors have changed. How you shop or how you order and eat at restaurants has changed. So I think we're seeing a lot of interesting kind of results as we consider updates to things like our customer lifetime value and more traditional kind of marketing metrics like that. Just gaps that need to be filled that we've kind of overlooked as we've focused on kind of growth and expansion and digital transformation. There's still a lot of kind of catching up, I think, to do. For the QSR industry in general, I think that's true, but at McDonald's as well.
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of effort in the QSR and fast food industry, specifically on like ability to predict, especially like the demand, right? Like there's all these models. You take weather, event data, local parameters, hyper localization, and figure out if you're going to see a surge in a couple of days, a couple of weekends, whatever, right? If there's a game or something, and kind of being able to predict their sales over time more accurately. I think, these are things, like you said, are not like a wow factor, but these are critical metrics that the business needs to track.
Yeah, agreed. And then I think on the other end too, as things like climate change and supply chain constraints continue to impact the upstream system, getting better customer demand is a part of it, but getting better at kind of capacity and contingency planning with regard to our supply chain capabilities and end-to-end tracking of all of our raw materials, and doing a better job of, as we go through our marketing and operations planning, matching up kind of advantageous time windows in terms of commodity prices with, our marketing or limited time offer strategy. so that we're maximizing kind of our margin potential is important as well. And that's obviously a huge cross-functional effort that involves supply chain, marketing, pricing, all these teams. So, but it's something we're continuing to explore in terms of optimization.
Great.
Yeah, that is no small feat.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not.
All right, Zach, I think we're pretty much at time here for today, but I think it was awesome to hear what you guys are doing. Really enjoyed having you on the podcast today, and looking forward to seeing what McDonald's is going to do next. And I think I might go get some French fries and a chocolate shake.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Access the full episode of Decisions Now on our website, and don't forget to subscribe to Decisions Now podcast today.